Hey guys, welcome to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So today we're back with a Nilah updated complete guide, and this one is going to be the last updated complete guide, unless some random huge build comes up that I need to update any one of them. But before we get into the details, of course, don't forget to check out Nilah's basic guide. I put up in the cards above right now for her skills, leveling order tips and tricks, as well as a couple of combos. But with that now said, now let's take a look at her items, runes, and spells. And this, of course, is for Dragon Lane Nilah. We've already covered Jungle Nilah in another video. So the build is runes and spells are actually pretty similar. So instead of going for the Boots of Dynamism, we're actually going to go for a Gluttonous Greaves in the early game just for that early game Omnivamp so that you can, sustain in lane and not die in lane, hopefully, right? But you're still gonna go for collector first item because at the end of the day, the early game AD and armor penetration is always going to be helpful, especially if you actually get into fights. Now, of course, you are supposed to be avoidant of fights, but sometimes you inevitably have to fight. You can't just avoid every single fight. So the collector damage actually does help you quite a bit. The Death and Taxes passive can situationally help you as well. And then you want to go into Bloodthirster next. Again, you get the good amount of AD. You of course you get your lifeline passive and you get your physical vamp, and then your standard 2 items of Infinity Edge for the extra AD and extra crit damage, as well as Mole Reminder for the armor pen and the grievous wounds. Now you do of course have the option of also going for Navori, and if you want to go for Navori, you actually probably want to swap out Collector and then go for Navori second item, something like this. But I think the Collector is a lot more of a snowbally build, and it does help you out quite a bit in terms of just damage, but Navori can come in very handy as well. My last item is going to be something defensive. It's very flexible. I have Death's Dance here as a default because it's just a pretty decent item that, of course, Nilah benefits from a lot since she's melee. Of course, you could go for a lot of other options as well, such as, your Steric's Gauge, your Twin Guard, your Spirit Visage. I love going Spirit Visage against heavy magic damage since you heal and shield yourself so much. The extra healing and shielding from Spirit Visage is very helpful, but of course, you can also go for like a Maw of Malmortius or a Wit's End if you prefer those, things like that. Right, so for the runes, we're actually still going to go for Conqueror. Now, there was a time where I liked going for Fleet Footwork, just for the sustaining lane, and I still think that that is pretty okay. You also can burst people down a lot more quickly because of the extra attack speed that you get, but at the end of the day, for longer fights and for mid and late game, Conqueror is just better. It's just depending on whether you want to focus on surviving in lane or, the mid and late game, right? So there's no real good rune to take here, so I just take Brutal because really, Gathering Storm is not good for AD champions. Brutal is not great because Nilah doesn't really auto attack all that much, and Triumph is probably the worst out of the options. No one really takes Triumph, but you can take it if you want to. So Giant Slayer pretty standard just for the dealing with tanks, and then Alacrity for more attack speed. And here you always want to go for Second Wind, because of course Second Wind helps you with your sustain in lane and heals you up while you're getting poked in lane, which is pretty much going to be every match when you're playing Nilah ADC. Now for the spells, you want to go for Flash, and the other one is pretty flexible. You could go for a Ghost for extra mobility. You can go for Barrier just for extra safety. Exhaust as well works very well, and Cleanse if you need that. So you can really just go for whatever you want. In this game, I actually took Exhaust, because since you're in melee range, you're always going to be able to exhaust people, and that's kind of my logic there. But with all that said, now let's finally take a look at our gameplay. Okay, so let's take a look at our gameplay as usual. Also, as usual, of course, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Any questions, queries, or remarks, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Of course, you guys know I will be sure to address them. So let's hop straight into the gameplay. Now, Nilah is a very, very niche pick. Not a lot of people play Nilah, so probably not that many people are gonna watch this one because Nilah is really a very kind of hard champion to play because it's really just a counter pick in the ADC role. It can be a jungler. I think jungle is the better role for Nilah, and I think ADC is really the secondary role for Nilah. Nilah plays a lot better in the jungle, but this one's going to be a very interesting gameplay because mini spoiler, we actually get a hit this game, which is very, very rare for Nilah, that you actually get a hit in the game. So we're going to get to see Nilah with a lead in this particular game. So Nilah generally just counters auto attackers, so you really only want to pick her when there's at least 2 auto attackers on the enemy team. So she hard counters someone like a Tryndamere, who really the only thing he can do is to jump on top of you and auto attack you, because when you pop your W for like 2 seconds, he's gonna do 0 damage to you completely, right? You counter other champions like Master Yi, who after he Qs you, he also wants to auto attack you. as well. Champions like Yasuo and Yone, who also rely a lot on their auto attacks for damage, and of course most ADCs. Now the thing is, although Nilah is a counter pick to Tryndamere and most ADCs, Xayah is actually kind of a soft counter to Nilah, right? And what I mean by that is, of course, Nilah can still immune her auto attacks. However, as Xayah goes super aggressive here onto the Zyra. However, the Xayah kind of soft counters Nilah because although Nilah can immune Xayah's auto attacks, Xayah's feathers still get placed down behind Nilah, and of course Nilah is a melee champion, so you still need to kind of dash in onto the Xayah, and of course Xayah plays very well against champions that want to dash on top of you, champions that are melee, which of course Nilah fits that bill. So technically, Xayah is a little bit of a soft counter to Nilah because even though she cannot get auto attacked, she can still get rooted by Xayah's feathers, which of course is sort of a problem. So it's not really the easiest Nilah game, but you can see that for Nilah, what I realized is she plays the best with not necessarily enchanters or engagers because with enchanters, they can heal and shield you, yes, but you're gonna get poked and then they're gonna heal and shield you afterwards, right? As Soraka flashes away upon seeing me and of course getting caught out by the Zyra. And playing with engagers is kind of not very useful because in the early game you don't really have the damage to fight. So even when they engage for you, you can't really take advantage of it and you can't really get kills, right? Because you don't really have the damage to do so. And also especially because you're gonna get poked, you're normally not going to be at full HP and you're normally not going to really be able to get things done, right? So what I found is that ironically, she actually performs the best with like mage bot lanes, right? So what I mean, and mage supports, right? So what I mean by that are champions like Zyra, Morgana, or Brand. She does very well with because they basically apply the pressure that she's lacking. Right? You can see that Zyra here is constantly poking the Xayah and the Soraka, constantly landing damage, and also can help clear wave if needed. Morgana can kind of do the same thing with her W, and Bran can basically do the same thing with his kit as well, just clearing wave as well as damaging the enemy team. Now, probably if you don't go with a mage support, the next best support you can probably go for is a Soraka who can basically just spam heal you whenever you get poked. Is probably the best way to go already. So, but in this game, we have a Zyra who can basically help you get through the early game. You can see that of course, Soraka doesn't really do so much poking, and neither does Xayah, but they haven't really been able to do very much to me because the Zyra is constantly harassing them and constantly poking them with her spells. So as a result, they have to kind of focus on stopping the Zyra poke and killing the Zyra plants instead of focusing on poking me. So I'm actually having a pretty good time just uh not getting poked by them essentially, right? So it's a pretty good time just not getting poked by them and uh just farming it up, right? You can see that I actually have a very slight goal lead against the Xayah, which as a Nilah is rare, right? And of course, Zyra has also picked up a kill and in fact has more gold than me, right? Just now killing the Soraka with the Ignite under tower. So it's a pretty good start to the game. We are not just even, but we are actually ahead by like 300 gold against the Xayah at this point. And we're actually taking plates as a Nilah against the Xayah Soraka lane, which is just bonkers, right? So ever since I found out that Nilah actually works very well against not against but with mages, I've realized that if my support plays a mage, I can actually play the Nilah and they can get me through the lane. Of course, Nilah one of the best scaling champions in a sense that when she reaches like late game, she does a ton of damage. Now here, Xayah goes in, I go for the CC on her, the Zyra 1 HP. Now, however, the problem here is I don't have anti-heal, so I don't have the damage to trade the kill onto the Xayah because Soraka is going to just keep healing her and I'm not going to be able to finish off the kill and I'll die if I keep on fighting, so I just gotta back off so that we don't donate another free kill to Xayah. Don't want that to happen. So despite Xayah picking up the kill, you can see I'm relatively even with her. Of course, when we pick up this wave, we will go back in the goal lead, but of course, the wave is going to crash into the tower and she's going to be able to collect that when she comes back from buying items. So already I would say this is a very, very good start to a Nilah game. We haven't died, we in fact have gotten an assist, and we're pretty much even in goal with the enemy ADC who has already gotten one kill. Right, so after a very, very good start, and there's really not a lot to complain about, and there's not too much to talk about, right? We've not played like amazingly or horribly in the start of the game. All we've really done is just clear the minions, and that's pretty much pretty much it, right? Of course, we follow up on the Zyra poke and engage when needed, right? Even though you don't really want to fight, you cannot just not do anything. You can't just AFK farm minions and not fight at all, right? Because the enemy is then going to have pretty much a free lane, and we definitely do not want that, right? You can, however, focus on farming minions so much that the enemy team gets conditioned that you're not gonna attack them, and then when the time is right, you just pounce, which I have done in a lot of my Zyra games. So here, I'm sorry, in my Nilah game. So here I go into the ulti onto the Vladimir. I get rooted, but you can see I'm pretty much not getting focused very much in the fight. So I'm just kind of hovering around the edge of the fight. I see an opportunity to go on Soraka. We kill the Soraka, giving me the double. And here I actually pick up the triple kill. And here with the Tryndamere ulti running out, I actually pick up a random quadra kill at the dragon fight. And now all of a sudden, I am super duper fed, which, as I said, is very, very rare on Nilah. And in fact, I believe in that fight, the collector damage helped me out a lot, but I believe the collector passive ironically also helped me out quite a bit. Right? I do think that as I somehow managed to miss all 4 minions there with my Q, I do think that the collector damage helped me to put some people below the threshold and actually helped me pick up some extra kills. But yeah, that was pretty amazing. We also get first tower of the game, and out of nowhere I'm like 2k gold ahead of the Xayah, and I pick up both my Bloodthirster components, right? So this is one of those rare games where Nilah gets super fed in the early game, and I'm trying to kind of snowball the game. Of course, Nilah is still a 3-item ADC, so currently I'm not really the strongest at the moment, but just based on the gold lead that I have, I'm actually doing pretty well already against pretty much anybody else in the game. So here we're trying to force down the mid lane tower, and in doing so we're going to just shove the mid lane in. We're pinging for Kassadin to roam bot, and thankfully he finally gets the message, but not before Xayah picks up the tower. And then you can see I'm just trying to go over, get the tower, which is what we do, and then Vladimir goes down. We're pretty low, but it's only just a Soraka, so we're not overly scared of her. Wukong tries to go in on her under tower. It doesn't really quite work out. But either way, we're able to just clear up the wave and then get a reset. So this allows us to pick up the Bloodthirster as well as an additional longsword, giving us the extra level of safety as well as the extra combat power with the raw stats like AD and attack speed and such. Right, so now we're like 2 items in, right? We are just trying to get to the IE for us to really start spiking. And honestly, at 2 items, we already will deal quite a little bit of damage. So, you know, we don't necessarily have to really avoid fights, although we don't really welcome them. We want to like just farm the 3 items, and then we're gonna, you know, really want to fight. But for now, you can see we're just gonna focus on keeping our farm up, focus on just looking for farm wherever it is that we can. And here, very strangely enough, the Wukong only farms his red buff and then kind of just leaves everything else up. But I'm not going to actually farm the Raptors here because I actually want to go defend the mid lane, which is actually pushing in. Always, especially as a laner, your priority should always be to clear the lane first before farming the jungle. So you can see now that I've actually cleared the lane, I'm now going to rotate over and farm the Raptors, right? As I said, you want to maximize your farm, but if we had gone to the Raptors first, we might lose some minions to the tower, so we want to go for those minions in lane first, and then only after that do we go to the jungle. So a huge skirmish is kind of breaking out in the top lane, and I'm just clearing wave here. I don't really want to participate in that fight because I'm just happy to farm. But you can see the fight slowly is migrating down a little bit, and Mbessa and Zyra are still in the area, who are my relatively strong members. So I'm actually rotating over to see if anything is actually going to happen. Fight might break out. You know, so far Tryndamere is dead. In trade for 2 people on my team. Zyra out kind of whiffs, unfortunately. Mbessa is trying to continue the fight, trying to go in. Gragas is trying to farm the Krugs. We're not going to allow that. So here, we're just kind of whipping them a little bit. The Vladimir is trying to come in. Now here I have my ult, my flash, my exhaust, and everything. I'm just kind of waiting for the right opportunity to pop my spells. Zyra there gets CC'd a little bit. Mbessa goes in onto the Gragas. We go in for the one shot onto the Gragas, and now we can follow up onto the Soraka for the double kill. Didn't even need to pop ult or any of our summoner spells there. So with Nilah, it's a lot about patience, right? Because most ADCs, you have range. You can just auto-attack people, right? But you can't do that with Nilah because she's melee. If you run at them, you're just going to get CC'd, you're going to get your spells thrown at you, and you're just going to take a lot of damage before you even reach them. So really with Nilah, you kind of have to be patient and wait for either your team to proc some CC onto them, or alternatively, they get distracted, or they focus on your teammates, and you have an opportunity to just go in and, you know, wreak havoc, which is basically what we did right there, putting us at 6-0-2 scoreline. So, we can basically be opportunistic and just look for the chances to go in and get like easy cleanups, easy kills, right? With Nilah, you never want to be the first one in and just get focused, because you are basically a melee carry, a lot like a Master Yi, for example, who's just a melee carry, Yasuo, champions like that. So here Gragas gets picked off, who's basically their most fed member. Here you can see I'm going in with the ulti. We get rid of two people. Well, we're not the ones who get the kill, but we basically, set them up. And we actually get the kill on the Xayah off of the Mbessa ulti. And Tryndamere is the only person left alive here. So we don't need 4 people to take the inhibitor. So I'm actually going to base here to defend against the Tryndamere's push. I believe the Tryndamere would also be backing at this point. The thing is, Baron is up, and we could actually have gone for Baron instead of the inhib. So we actually secure the inhib, and Baron is still a possibility. However, I'm now on the opposite side of the map from Baron just to clear the wave. So I'm gonna have to gate over to the Baron like so. And you can see 4 people on the enemy team is congregating in the mid lane, but I do think they're making their way over. So we need to do this quickly before they come over and like have a chance to steal or anything. But we are able to secure it just as Gragas kind of reaches the premises. So Gragas though somehow just randomly hops the wall, right? And since he doesn't have, since he just flashed, he basically has little mobility to get out, right? So we're giving chase to him, and it's gonna become basically an entire fight. So I have my ult, I flash in, I get a 4-man ulti, but just look at this, they're all 1 HP, right? And I'm killing none of them. I'm trying to reach somebody, anybody, but that went from very beautiful 4-man ulti to, what? How did everybody survive there? That's like a head scratcher for me. I was like, how did all of them survive? I mean, I did miss, I think I missed a Q there or something, but yeah, that was just insane, right? 4-man ult into everybody living, except Tryndamere, I believe it was. So yeah, that kind of sucks. But anyways, let's go get this blue buff and just continue on farming the jungle. Just trying to get to that 4th item to get us 100% crit. I mean, that's honestly the kind of the point where you reach your final form. Of course, you still have a 5th item, 5th defensive item where it's going to make you even stronger, but getting yourself to 100% crit on Nilah is just magical. I think she's one of the best scaling champions in the entire game, not just in the ADC role. Where like when you hit 4-item Nilah, she's like just so strong, right? Outduels a lot of champions. And yeah, so here we're now going for the enemy jungle farm, denying the blue buff from the enemy team. And here we just saw a ward, so we know that this Gromp is warded, but it doesn't matter, we're just going to take it anyway. Not like Tryndamere can actually stop us. So here we're walking up to join our Wukong in the fight, but being very careful because we know a lot of other people are here. We try to go for a one-shot onto the Vladimir, but we don't have that kind of damage yet. Tryndamere is basically dead. We're going to get the ulti in so we can catch other people out as well, including the Vladimir. Here, you can see we have a lot of lifesteal, just lifestealing off of everything and anything. And here, honestly, I knew I couldn't kill them, but I just decided to just try to dive them anyway. Just a little bit of limit testing there. But obviously, we should not have been doing that. Like, technically, that's our first death of the game, so could have had like a 0 death game on Nilah if we didn't troll it there by just trying to dive that. Even if it worked, right, we would have killed both of them and died. There's no way we get out from that situation the moment we go in, right? So that was an active choice. I kind of knew what I was doing there. It wasn't like a huge blunder or whatnot. I mean, it could have been, or it could be, because dying is no good. But there's no real objectives up at the moment, so it's not too big of a deal. We did reach our full build though, getting ourselves the 4. I'm not full build, but we did get the 4 crit items that we needed, so that was that is pretty nice. And here you can see I'm just waiting just a little bit, even though like stuff is happening, like our team's kind of congregating for a possible fight. I just need to wait a little bit just to get that stasis, which is what I really want to get, because that gives me the license to just kind of hop in and with my ulti, flash in with my ulti, things like that, and then I can just stasis there just to buy time for my team to follow up. Although I don't really even know if I need it at this point, considering how fed I actually am. But never any harm to get an extra layer of safety. And here you can see Soraka's just caught out of position a little bit, so I tried to actually dash on her, but I don't quite get there. Sometimes you have trouble reaching people as a melee champion, which is perfectly normal. Now here I've got a very nice flank onto the enemy team. So here you can see I'm dashing in. I actually end up catching out the Vladimir instead of my intended target, which is either Soraka and or Xayah. So here, I've run out of cooldowns. So I'm waiting for my E cooldown and my Q cooldown to come back up. I'm just waiting, and Xayah unfortunately face checks the bush, and I'm able to just one-shot her because I'm 4 items at this point. Even a Soraka cannot save her with the healing. We do have anti-heal, and we do just have so much burst damage. It's not really an issue at all. So here it's only Soraka left, right? So if she sticks around, I can reasonably just kill her on the tower. There's especially if she doesn't have silence, there's no way she survives on the tower. But I'm just gonna focus the tower now for now, so that we can secure the inhib, and same for the top lane. If she gets too close, then she's gonna ask to die, right? Something like this, right? So she gets so close, and she's just gonna die. So now Tryndamere comes in. I'm gonna pop the W, so I take 0 damage from him. He doesn't even have ult, so he dies. And now I'm just kind of clearing up the minions. But I don't want to stay alone in the enemy base. That's never really a good idea, so I'm just gonna back off. So now I'm going to start farming the enemy jungle. Baron is now back up, and I'm very close to getting Death's Dance. So I kind of want to recall and get Death's Dance, and then we can do Baron and just end the game. Right, so full build in 17 minutes. Pretty fast if you ask me. And now we can redeploy onto the map to go to the Baron. Unfortunately, Zyra kind of starts it alone, right, which is not very advisable because the Baron hurts, right? Zyra is taking a bunch of damage. And W's the Skull Crab by mistake. So now that we've arrived on the premises, the Baron basically has almost fully reset. So we are just whacking the Baron here, and we're actually tanking the Baron. So we do like half damage to the Baron here, but we do so much damage that it doesn't really even matter that much. We secure the Baron, and now we can head back out. But the thing is, our whole team is kind of resetting except Castellan. So now it's not the best time to look for a fight, since the rest of our team is not yet here. So here we have the Baron, but we don't have any Elder or anything like that. But I do think that we can just force it because the enemy team is so far behind at this point. We're 10k gold up, that we should be able to force it now. Speaking of force, Mbessa goes in with the ulti, Zyra goes in with the ulti. I'm just trying to go in anywhere. And you can see I'm just whacking people with my whip, life stealing at the same time. And now I'm just going to whack the base, right? When they're distracted with my teammates, I'm just going to whack the base. I still have ult flash, everything, but there's no reason to potentially throw the game, right? We're just going to end the game right then and there. So I'm going to leave you guys with the stats as usual. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.